Okay, so this is where we started.
Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later. I did us a favor.
And this is where we've ended up.
Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later. I did us a favor.
Okay, so this is a track by Hayley Reardon, a super talented singer-songwriter who has a new record coming out this week, by the way, so go save her music on your favorite platform and support her. She is singing and playing guitar. Pau Figueres is playing guitar, and we have 5 open mics. We have a vocal mic, 2 guitar mics, and 2 room mics. Let's check out what is going on with this one red track here. This is Hayley's vocal mic.
I played all my games in the dark, with my head on fire, speeding car, till I found someone too in love to tell.
Okay, so what we're going to do first, I'm going to add in a tape, and I'm using the 250 tape at 30 IPS, and the calibration is pretty hot. 7.5 is a little higher than standard recommended calibration on this tape, but that's going to give us a little bit of bloom when she really pushes into it. You can, check out other videos on this process here or read the manual on the Stutter. It's a pretty deep processor. The second thing we're going to do is some EQ. So let's pull that in right fast. I'm cutting out low end, almost all the way up to 70 hertz, pulling out some low end, low mids, and I have a sort of dynamic EQ happening here because of one of the guitar notes. Now, if I play that, you'll see this jump down every now and then.
I played all my games in the dark.
That little note she's hitting on the guitar is going to be a problem in a minute, so we'll get to that when we listen to some other tracks. The next process is a de-esser. It's only doing a little bit of work here and there.
I played all my games in the dark, with my head on fire, speeding car.
The cool thing about this de-esser is that it is pretty transparent. The next process, compression.
I played all my games in the dark, with my head on fire, speeding car, till I found someone to in.
Now, if you notice, it's only doing a little bit of gain reduction because one of the reasons I'm using this specific compressor is that it sounds super natural. It's very smooth, very clean. So the next processor is this Pultec, and what I'm doing here is I'm pushing and pulling a little bit in the low end, boosting where it says 100, but that's not really where it happens on this equalizer. Attenuating at the same place. What that actually does is that it pulls down around the 300 hertz area and boosts sort of low end below that. I'm pushing up a little bit around the 10K and pulling out some of the ultra highs.
I played all my games in the dark, with my head on fire, speeding car, till I found someone to in.
Great. And then there's a little bit of de-esser I'm using from the RX de-esser at the end of that chain. It's just pulling down a couple of the more obvious S's that you'll hit later on. Now, let's listen to that in the chorus area right here.
On abandoned world, something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later.
Now, I'm going to start introducing a couple things here. One is this room mic, both room mics actually. But this is kind of the main thing I want to talk about, this relationship between the room mics and her actual vocal mic. So to me, the most important thing in this mix is her vocals and her guitar and the way that it blooms around her. And so this first room mic, what I've done is that we have to make sure they're in phase. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in mono here. Well, it is mono, but I'm going to put it right up the center. This is the sound of that microphone. Now I'm going to play them both together.
On abandoned world. Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later.
Right, so they are in phase. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is take both of these mics, the room mics. I'm going to set them right up the center. And I'm going to test both of these to see if they're in phase. And I can already tell you that I found that that room, the one on the right, is not in phase. So I'm going to take it out and we'll take a listen to what's going on. Okay, now I'm going to flip the polarity on the right microphone. Right, now that I have those two microphones in phase with each other, and I know that the room left mic is in phase with her vocal mic, let's go back and set these to room right and room left on the pan here. On abandoned world. Cool. So now we have sort of a stereo image of what's happening. Let me go back to the beginning.
Played all my games in the dark, with my head on fire, speeding car.
Okay, so now that we have that most important part of the mix in there, her vocals, guitar, everything is here on this one mic, and we have the room mics going, let's check some EQ on those mics. First thing I'm going to do on this room mic on the left is take out the low end and the high end. I'm doing the same sort of notched out dynamic EQ on that one note. And I'm doing the same EQ on the other mic. Okay, so now let's listen to that with her vocal mic.
I played all my games in the dark.
Cool, let's move on to the mix bus right fast. First thing on the mix bus is an API 2500, not doing much. It is just there for kind of tone, mostly. It will grab some of her peaks when they get a little bit louder, but you can kind of look at these settings. It's, you know, ratio of 1.5 to 1. It's not doing a whole lot. It's a sort of a medium attack, medium release. I do have the link all the way to the individual because that's going to leave the stereo field open to whatever happens on the left and right. Hope that makes sense. I'm sure there's tons of videos of how this works, but that's what I'm doing on that. I do have an EQ going here after that compressor, boosting a little bit of the highs, a little bit of the lows. Pretty simple. Now, actually, let me turn these off. No compression on the two bus.
I played all my games in the dark.
Now with it.
I played all my games in the dark.
Such a good tone. I love that compressor. Now the EQ, we do the same thing.
I played all my games in the dark.
Now with it.
I played all my games in the dark.
I mean, most of the mix takes care of itself over here on the two bus. The Ampex ATR 102 comes up next, and I'm just doing some normal kind of stuff here on this Ampex using the 456 tape. on a 1/2 inch +6.
I played all my games in the dark.
Yeah, and this limiter is really here just to catch any peaks. It's not doing anything, honestly. It's way up. The attack is way open. I'm using a little bit of that enhanced curve, and I'm using a little bit of this Spice Rack plugin, which is really cool. There's a mix bus sort of preset that I have of my own, where I use the tube setting, but just a tiny bit of the mix, basically. Now, if I turn this off and then I pull it in, you'll hear a difference.
I played all my games in the dark. I played all my games in the dark.
And listen to the low end of her vocals. I'll turn it back off.
I played all my games in the dark.
And now back in.
I played all my games in the dark.
It's so good. I'm just using the tiny bit of this drive, which is the tube drive. So now let's talk about the sends, where I have a bunch of sends over here. So the first one, the EMT 140.
I played all my games in the dark. With my head on fire, speeding car.
Now that's what I would call a short plate. It's just kind of there in the background, you know. And I have what's called a long plate for the longer sort of passages. I'm using the, what is this, the Sound Toys Super Plate on the Gold Foil 240, which is kind of a darker tone.
I played all my games in the dark.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just listen to that long plate for a second. Right, and so I've got sort of a little bit of a decay thing happening here with the tweak panel, and what it's doing is it's sort of ducking what comes in and then letting go of the gate when there's no more signal, so that you get a tail after it. All right, now that with the mix and the EMT plate.
I played all my games in the dark.
Okay, now let's talk about the tape echo a second here. We got the a Galaxy, which is a RE201 Space Echo. It is doing a little bit of I don't call it a slap back, but it's a little bit of a delay.
I played all my games in the dark.
It's barely there, but in the chorus it'll come in a little bit louder. We'll get to that in a minute. And the chamber.
I played all my games in the dark. With my head on fire, speeding car.
So what I've got going on here is, before I'm getting to this chamber, which by the way is the Sound City Studios chamber, I'm hitting a bit of a soothe plugin before I get there, so that it pulls down some of the harsh frequencies that are in those recordings. I don't want those reverberating through the chamber, so I hit that first. The chamber here is doing some cool stuff. If I pull this open, the EQ is sort of not doing much. There's the chamber here where I've got it set up on a pretty long return using the RE50 microphone and a little bit of dynamics, but I don't think that's doing anything. So let's check.
I played all my
No, not really. It probably will in the chorus, but all those together.
I played all my games in the dark.
Hayley's guitar has a DI, which I have mixed all the way to the left. I've mixed Pal's DI all the way to the right. Let's just listen to those two right fast. Now those are kind of there just as a safety, basically. On Hayley's guitar, I'm doing a little bit of pulling down of the low end in the EQ. I've got a Soothe plugin on that one as well. Kind of the same thing on Pal's guitar here. It's just pulling out the low end. I'm gonna put those in the reverbs. And if you notice, that one is going to the mix bus, but Paul's is going to his own bus. We'll get to that in a second as well. So Hayley's guitar DI is going to the mix bus, but her guitar microphone, which only has a little bit of EQ on it, is going to its own bus. Now this bus has the Neve summing on it, and it's also got more EQ on it, pulling that down. I've got a compressor on it, just doing a tiny bit.
I played all my games in the dark.
Now we're just listening to the guitars of Hayley's right now.
I played all my games in the dark.
Cool. 1073 doing a little bit of a boost on the low end and a little bit on the high end, and a little bit more Soothe on the end of that chain there. Now I'm going to put in her vocals and her guitar.
I played all my games in the dark. With my head on fire, speeding car.
Now with the reverbs.
I played all my games in the dark. With my head on fire, speeding car.
Great. Now let's talk about Pal's guitar. He's got a DI going on and a microphone, and both of those are just doing a little bit of EQ. A little bit there too, just pulling out the low end, and they're going to their own sub, which has another EQ on it, where I'm pulling out more low end and doing a little bit of gentle compression using the 1176. Pretty slow attack for 1176 anyway. It's not doing much. Let me play that for you here. Now, if you hear that echo, that's at the end of the chain here. I've got a Echo Boy that's doing a little bit of a slap kind of thing on his guitar only. If I just listen to his guitar, though, what you'll hear is the bleed from Hayley's vocal come in. I'm not worried too much about the delay on her vocals bleeding through. I just want that little slap on his guitar.
I played all my games in the dark. With my head on fire, speeding car.
Very good. Now, you may be wondering what this imagery is at the end of the chamber. That's just there is a little bit of a widener on that chamber. It helps when they get into the chorus part of the song. Let me move over there.
Something's gonna hurt now. out of my mouth. All that's left is space, and I won't give it away.
It's just sort of blooming out into the background. Now, I'm pushing a little bit of the headroom on the 2 bus. This would be normal right here. I'm just pushing it about a notch more. I'm going to move that though, and we can listen to what it sounds like as I increase. As I move this knob up, it increases what you would perceive as distortion, I guess. It lowers the headroom.
Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later. I did us a favor.
Now, I'm not a fan of that too much. Let me pull it back a bit.
Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later. I did us a favor.
Okay, so now, once again, let's listen to no processing.
Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later. I did us a favor.
And now with the processing.
Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later. I did us a favor. It's finally.
So the very last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what I'm doing on this parallel mix. I've sent everything, guitars, vocals, everything is going to, even the reverbs are going into this parallel mix with a compressor. That is the Chandler Zener limiter. And I have my own little preset thing here that I like to start with. I'm on limit, and I'm just pushing into it. I'm going to get a pretty good bit of gain reduction on this, especially in the loud parts, and then mix that in. And this is what it sounds like without it.
Favor. It's finally out of my mouth.
And this is with it.
Favor. It's finally out of my mouth.
Now that's not really noticeable in this section, but in the quiet sections, it is very, very good for the tone of the heaviness of the low end. There's without and with.
I played all my games in
So now let's go back to the beginning here. I'm just going to let this play for a minute with all the processing. Again, I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, but if you followed this, thank you. And if I confused you, I'm very sorry. I went pretty quick. Leave me some questions or something in the comments, and I'll see if I can help. And also, please go support Hayley Reardon and her wonderful music. Here's her song, Something's Gonna Hurt.
I played all my games in the dark, with my head on fire, speeding car, till I found someone too in love to tell. And we poured chlorine in the wishing well. Now I'm looking out at the evidence washes ashore. The only thing I hear is the dissonance of an abandoned world. Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later. I did us a favor. It's finally out of my mouth. All that's left is space, and I won't give it away. the strangeness of a different town. Well, it took all of me to turn around. Suddenly I'm desperate to preserve some sacred thing that lives beyond the words. And I am holding hands with the cavalry that ravaged my brain. To think I was immune to the mysteries of spinning in space. Something's gonna hurt now, and something's gonna hurt later. I did us a favor. It's finally out of my mouth. All that's left is space, and I